You're listening to the Productive Therapist Podcast, the world's greatest and most brilliant resource for busy therapists who'd rather be laying on a beach in Hawaii. Each episode is packed with simple tips and inspiring insights from the Productive Therapist team to help you grow your practice and have fun doing it. So without further ado, let's help you get more done and have more fun.
Hello. Welcome back to the Productive Therapist Podcast. Look at you making an amazing decision today to listen to this podcast. I hope you really enjoy it. And today I had a really fun chat with Christy Pennison and Steph Korpal, the dynamic duo behind the Practice Collab. They help group practice owners work less, make more, and actually enjoy the lives they've built. Through masterminds, live events, and strategy-driven support, Christy and Steph bring community and clarity to business growth without burnout. Honestly, two of the most fun people. If you ever get a chance to see them on a webinar or a training or meet them in person, they're seriously so much fun, so smart, and so passionate. I hope you enjoy this conversation and it gets you excited about collaboration and community. Christy and Steph, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Uriah. Thanks for having us.
Hey.
When did the two of you meet and how did you start working together?
Yeah, we met online. And I mean, how much of an 80s baby am I that all of my best friends are like strangers from the internet, right? Like the time of AIM and Facebook, you know. But Christy and I were in an online accountability group starting in approximately February 2020. So with other people, and it was when we were both solo practitioners. And, you know, as the world unfolded that year, we were not always on the call together. It was a twice monthly call. She missed a couple, I missed a couple. And then we met in person after I very randomly side chatted her in a Zoom and asked if she wanted to meet me in Nashville at an Airbnb for what I called a working weekend, because we were both about to hire our first employee, moving from solo practice to group practice. And I knew I didn't want to be at home for that process, laundry, grocery shopping. I'd let a couple clients sneak on my calendar. So I knew I had to separate my physical environment. And I just randomly chatted this girl that I had maybe been on Zoom with.
She pulled up at my DMs.
Yeah. And asked her if she wanted to meet me in person from a Thursday night to a Sunday afternoon.
You just skipped the first date entirely, didn't you?
I did. And then she said, let me check my calendar. Like that was the point in time that someone was supposed to put a kibosh on it, you know, and say, I really know you. But no, she checked her calendar, emailed me, said that weekend's free. I'll book a ticket tonight. And then we met in person in November 2020 and have since gone on international trips together and talk at least weekly, if not, I mean, there's some days I think we probably talk every day, and now have started another business together. So highly recommend Strangers from the Internet.
And the power of accountability, you know, I know that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, but
yeah,
collaboration and accountability really can go a long way. And then you become friends because you're like, man, they know my stuff and they're holding me accountable.
They know my secrets. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so cool. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, when you make a fast connection with someone and you know, kind of like, oh, we're on the same wavelength and we could do work together and we could do projects together and fun things together. I think that's awesome. So cool.
Yeah, to just be able to be in conversation with somebody and it move from the professional to the personal and back to the fresh professional in such a seamless, ongoing way, and there's no need to learn each other's language. You know all the acronyms, you know all of the ins and outs of the pain points and headaches of the business, of personal life. And so it's just so easy to really get into those conversations about how do I move this hurdle? How do I celebrate this win? How do I hold myself accountable? And it just, I think, paves the way for really strong foundations of friendships and just really dynamic friendships. And that can be hard to do in adulthood with all your other responsibilities and ways that you've grown. And especially in business ownership and entrepreneurial life, I think it shapes you in such a different way than so many other professional endeavors, that it does take being one to know one for a lot of that to just feel so natural.
Yeah. It doesn't even occur to me, because of the way that I operate, that some people try to do this alone. whether they have a solo
Mhm.
practice or a group practice, because I've always had community and consultation groups and mastermind groups, and I couldn't live without it.
How have you found your groups?
Yeah, I mean, back when I was a working therapist all those years ago, um, I found a couple of consultation groups. I was invited to one that I was in for many
Okay.
years, and then another one was a local program that was actually really cool called Fostering Connections, where you would agree to see foster or adopt youth for unlimited amount of time for free, and you would get to be a part of this consultation group with like a
Oh, I love that.
senior clinician. I was in that group for 6 years. It was awesome.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And then what about when you got into the group practice owner space? How did you find community once you switched your professional endeavor to that?
I got invited to one group
Okay.
that actually birthed Productive Therapist. I
Cool.
had the seed of an idea, and I brought that to the group, and this is the result of that. I think I just always have naturally done sort of networking and connecting with
Okay.
people online that's led to like sort of
Hmm.
organic, spontaneous things.
Yep.
I was just invited to another another mastermind group. I have to put a cap on it at some point, right?
Yeah, okay, this is a real thing. But I mean, you
Yeah.
do bring up a good point. It's interesting because I can remember month 3 in this endeavor of just like doing private practice, right? And I can remember very vividly thinking like I was about to climb out of my body and climb the walls because I didn't have a group. I was working by myself for the first time ever. I didn't really have community because I was doing this thing that everybody else in my world thought I was a little bit maybe challenged, I guess, so to speak. Like they were not sure about my mental state and capacity at the time, you know? And so there wasn't really that community that I could lean on. But like you said, I think for me, it was realizing, oh my gosh, if I'm going to do this, there's so much I don't know. And I don't want to have to figure this out all by myself, but I'm also really lonely. And so it's interesting to hear
Hmm.
your how you naturally gravitated or was invited to or became a part of, but how that has helped also even birth the idea of what we're doing right now. Had you not been a part of that group, I mean, the idea might still have came, but I'm sure the group members, I mean, did they empower you or really encourage you to like, yeah, that's a great idea, go for that?
Absolutely. Yeah. My idea was totally different, and they kind of guided me and directed me and said, because I'll just tell you real quick. My original idea for Productive Therapist was just a fun blog where I could talk about technology and software that I use to run my private practice.
Okay.
And I had hired somebody, I had hired a friend actually working in this office where I'm sitting right now. And they were doing intake service, providing intake services for me. And then I said to my mastermind group, I said, I think, and maybe this virtual assistant thing might be part of this plan. Right. And they were like, no, you're right. Listen, I think the virtual assistant thing, that's your thing.
That is the plan.
Okay. And then that's how I started a virtual assistant business. Yeah. Yeah.
What's kind of cool about that is so often when we are in community with the people that know us and get us, they actually have us bypass the like low idea for the higher idea, right? They're like,
Hmm.
that's actually just this thing, and you need to take it up to this level, like shoot for that. And that's such a cool way to be in a space with other people, I think.
It
And
really
what's
is.
so fun, Uriah, is I'm thinking about you. Now you are still doing that, right? Like sharing with everybody. Not only do you have productive therapists,
Yeah.
but we were just talking about
Hmm.
ChatGPT prompts and stuff. Like you're still getting to work that passion of like, I want to share tech or I want to share what's worked for me, or I want people to help know that they can use these resources to help them even be more productive and more efficient and even be able to like say where are the gaps and things in their business. So it's really cool to hear your story about that and then to see how you're still doing that original idea as a part of this larger idea.
Full circle, yeah. So
Mhm.
I'm curious
That's
for the
neat.
two of you, have you found this kind of community and accountability collaboration locally with people in your area, or only online, or a little bit of both? How's that worked out?
What a great question,
Yeah.
Uriah.
I love when you say it like that. You're like, because usually for you, it means, I don't know if I've thought about it in this way, but now I have a really good thought I want to share.
Right.
She knows me so well. But I think for us, I'm not going to speak for Steph, so she can speak to this. Of course, in local community, I always believe, like you had stated, in the power of networking. So I have relationships and I have collaboration, I would say, in a different way for local, either other therapists that have practices or have maybe a practice that's different than mine, or maybe just in general has created some community around the therapists that are in our area. However, it does become challenging sometimes to, even though you can be in a great abundance mindset, and I'm all like, we could have duplicate therapists for days and still not meet the need of mental health in our area. There still becomes a challenge when you do have people locally to really feel fully able to be vulnerable and transparent about some of the issues and challenges in your business, right? Because even though they might be a collaborator, they might also be a competitor in a way, right? And
That's real.
although we still have that mindset of like, they're helping people, we're helping people, we all can help people, it's still hard to really pull up to the table and say, oh, well, last week I had this really big challenge with so and so, or I'm having to rethink this structure. Can we talk it out? And so, what I have found is not that I haven't always been open to helping out or sharing with local individuals that want feedback or guidance or collaboration. I've kind of, in a way, put that in a separate bucket, of more of like networking and how can I support you at a higher level versus I feel like the online communities and groups that we've either been able to create or have been a part of, there's this special space that you can create that really allows for more vulnerability and transparency that I think would be hard for me to do completely at a local level. That's my thought.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is the competition piece. And I also think, at least from my experience when I got started, I was so insecure. And there were questions I didn't want to ask because I didn't necessarily want people to then question referring to me if I was asking this question or things like that. So I did find a couple people that were quality to network with, but I also think it depends on your community and how just how people interact there. Are people really territorial? Are people looking to mentor? Is there a difference between how people do that in the solo practitioner space versus the group practitioner space? And I agree too, Christy, about what you said, that when you do get to a certain level, there is kind of information might feel a little bit more proprietary.
Oh, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, there is still that need that I think of all the time now that I do have my national online network, and how it feels so good when we are in person, that it does drive a desire to find it locally. Because if that was who I could call to go do something on a Friday night or go for a walk on Saturday or go explore this, I do feel like there would be an aided and abetted quality of life if I did have more of that locally. So there's this really weird psychological navigation to it, but I do think it is worth navigating and finding out how you can do both. Because I think as you become a
Yeah.
more secure entrepreneur, as you know what you have to offer and how to ask other people for help without it reflecting and causing like triggers or something, you can engage more authentically in a local network and find those people. But if you are pulling up to the table when you're getting started with some of those insecurities, it might be better to start online and then transfer to a local community.
No, I can definitely see that. I've been fortunate to have both. Once upon a time, a couple years ago, I did pull together a group of local group practice owners, a group of group practice owners,
Uh-huh.
and we met occasionally, and it ended up being very collaborative and very
Cool.
friendly. And then I continued some of those relationships as well, even to the point of like, meeting up for coffee and like complaining about our group practices and then offering to like sell them to each other.
Yeah.
That's great.
Do you want to combine? And then like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
all those
Yep.
kind of things.
Well, and I think you bring up a great point because I have seen people do this very well. I can think of one of our mutual friends who has a practice in the Northeast, and they have a group of group practice owners that meet pretty frequently and support each other. And I can remember them just kind of stating that, like, even through those COVID times, they were able to really
Mm.
draw on each other, especially when there were so many transitions and things happening very rapidly, how to adjust. And I do think like to Steph's point, there is some value in finding friends that you can discuss that personal and that professional and pull up at the table. And it's really just trying to figure out what's going to navigate best for where you live and what's going to work for you.
Yeah, I like that. I was just looking up this quote. The classic proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Go together. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. I mean, not that anybody listening to this needs to really be sold on the value of community and collaboration, but tell me some of the other, maybe the things we haven't talked about, the benefits of
Yeah.
having a community to help you grow your practice.
Yeah, I mean, there's such an issue about brain space, time, and energy when you are an entrepreneur, especially if I think, period. But also, once you become multi-passionate and you want to do other things, there are problems you just need to solve really fast, or delegation you need to get really good at so you can free up your time for those other things that are becoming much more motivating and inspiring to you. But even when you are just working on your practice, we all remember the days of building the foundation when you're trying to get your employee handbook, or you're trying to figure out pay structures for provisionally licensed versus fully licensed, or what do you pay somebody that works for you for a supervision hour? Or do you contract it out? And like all of those questions. And the benefit of having a group to go to and say, how do you guys do this? What have you tried that doesn't work? It speeds it up. So it's a lot less trial and error where you are having to then clean up maybe a poor decision or a mistake. You can just really learn from the wisdom of other people who have gone before you or have just tried something else, even if they're at about the same stage of group practice ownership. We all know how expensive it can be to work with an attorney. So if they were building something from scratch, versus if you get something from a friend and then the attorney just tailors it to the state laws for where your practice is, good interview questions, like all of that stuff that might otherwise take you a long time, or you get distracted doing it, and then also doing it in community with people that know you can say, well, I know how your practice works. Like, these interview questions work for us because we're looking for this type of person. And I know your practice is a little different. So maybe leave out these questions. So it can be really beneficial, not only for that straightforward, here's an asset, but it's also, and I know you, so here's how you can also shift it and utilize it in a way that's unique to your identity as an entrepreneur, owner, and what you've built in a practice.
Yeah, and I'd also add, one of the things that we have found is like magical, and I know you've experienced this, Shariah, so I'm curious to see if my assumption is true about this, okay? But like when you get into a space where there are like-minded individuals and you're all trying to work on things, that co-working magic, we've done that a lot too. It's so weird. We've had people be like, pull up and they're like, I cannot believe that I'm coming here for 2 hours, to work. But they're like,
That I'm paying you to let me work.
Yeah, exactly. But the amount of stuff, that shared space that we're all just holding this intention for this time together with that level of accountability, it's like magic. Like things that would take you in my world like a week to maybe do. That might be exaggeration,
Minimum.
but like
Oh, I was going to say it's an
She's like, no, that's actually under exaggeration. But like it may actually get done in 2 hours, and it's because of that. You're not overthinking it as much. You have a very clear accountability structure that I need to get this done. And then you have that support to move through any of that stuck place where I don't know about y'all, but I've spent time ruminating way too much on how to solve this one problem, that if I just got different perspectives, it would give me so much clarity to move through that problem in a lot faster pace. And so what we found is that, it is hard to figure this stuff out alone. And to our point that we said earlier, like there is, and it's no judgment if you're out there doing it alone, but our encouragement is to find your people, because this can be a lot more enjoyable experience, and maybe you can maintain your sanity in the process too, because this is hard. Leadership is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and there's an emotional sharing and processing element of this as well, right? So, an employee resigning, or I don't know about this world, but maybe an insurance audit that doesn't go well, or things like that. They're really hard things. And while, yes, you have your friends and your family and your partner that can help, there is different kind of help with somebody that, again, knows the language, knows the acronyms, and has gotten through that issue on their own end before. But being able to go through that hardship and have your big feelings in a group that really does know it can also speed up that emotional hurt
Processing,
healing.
yeah.
Yes. And just again, you feel just so supported in a way that you don't get stuck in the hard.
Yeah, I like that. So it's like there's speed, there's synergy, there's support, all kinds of good S words. So
Yes.
that all sounds wonderful. Tell me how is that better than just asking strangers on Facebook, and why?
Oh my gosh. Can I take this one, Steph?
Go for it, sister.
Listen, we both have strong thoughts about this, but listen, I have learned a lot from some online communities and Facebook groups. Seriously, there has been information shared that has provided so much value for me, just kind of being a like standby watcher
A
of some of
lurker,
the dialogue,
what they
right?
call it, a lurker.
A lurker, yes, when I'm lurking in the shadows. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I've gotten some really good information. But the challenge is I've also got some really misinformation or not great information in the fact that everybody is so different in where their practice is, the values of their practice, the mission of their practice, the type of community that they live in, insurance based or private pay. What are some of the challenges that they might face in their community? And me and Steph talk about this all the time because we have practices in two very different parts of the United States, right? I'm in a very small rural community that, honestly, it's hard to not know somebody, really. There's probably a rock you can throw and you're going to hit somebody, okay? Oh, that was a rhyme. I just noticed that. Anyways, but the challenge of these groups are that people don't know your practice. So they're making suggestions if you have a problem with good intentions, I believe. I think most people I would like to believe on the internet are trying to be helpful and supportive and share their experience and what's worked for them. But if they're not noticing what the lens that you're coming from or the specifics about your practice or even the challenges that you faced, one of the things that's cool about having a shared journey is people knew you and maybe 2 years ago and the challenge you were facing there, and they know the context of actually where you've come today. And so I think that there is a lot less when you know about each other's practices or you had that community and you had that collaboration in a little bit more siloed way, I guess to say. I don't know the word to use, but you have context, and context helps when trying to help your fellow practice bestie over here find a solution that's aligned for them.
Yeah, I think, the bigger the Facebook group or the bigger, whatever platform you're using, the more you can probably get some really good factual information. For example, people still love to ask, if my client goes home for the summer while they're in college, can I still see them? You can get some good factual information from there. But if you want tailored insight, tailored interventions, if it's a small online community with opportunity for virtual collaboration, I think those groups are great. That's how I found all my friends, right?
Yeah.
And I came into group practice ownership during COVID, where the only option most of the time was those groups. So it's a both and kind of answer. The more anonymous you can be, the less likely the group is to be actually that helpful. But the
Yeah.
more you get out of it by showing up, knowing people's names, knowing people's faces, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective, Steph. Because I'm just thinking of the big old Facebook groups that people go.
Sure. And those have to be talked about, because that is
Yeah.
part of the online community, is when we talk about that umbrella.
One of my favorites is the responses that come when someone says they just started their group practice and they're wondering if they should hire 1099s or W-2.
I thought Steph was for
Yeah.
sure going to say that. I was waiting,
Right.
but you said it. Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
feel like I've looked at a few groups recently, or they'll just pop up on my feed, and it's still the conversation that's going on.
Always.
And it's
Always.
and you need to know that. I mean, I remember when I started out, like that was a question, but I think that answer is very specific to what your vision is for your practice. And a person online, unless you've just divulged everything that you've thought about for the past however long you've been thinking about it, it's hard to really answer that question in a way that's going to be beneficial for the
Right.
person asking it.
Yeah. And Facebook groups or Instagram posts don't have any memory of what you've posted before, unlike ChatGPT, who remembers everything that you ever said. Haha.
Right.
Maybe a better collaborator than a random Facebook group, right?
That's right. Well, can I just ask a question, Uriah? What did we do before ChatGPT?
What did
I'll be
you
honest with
do?
you. What did
Just
I?
ask the
Yeah.
real question. What did you do?
Well, what did we do before all kinds of technologies? Yeah, we had a
That's
life,
right.
but it was harder.
We made our own sourdough and homemade food,
Yeah.
and it was fine.
And we were curious about things and didn't know
Yes,
everything.
yes, yes, and it was fine.
Yeah. By the way, I just remembered where I first met you, Steph. It was on an architectural boat cruise in Chicago.
That's right, for
Yes.
That
Maureen's
is right.
conference several
Yeah.
I was
summers
attending a
ago.
group practice conference and you were just having fun and
I
not working.
was.
She sure was, because I remember she called me up and was like, I just had the best time on the boat with these people. And then I was having
knew it
FOMO over
wasn't.
here being like, ugh.
That's so funny. Yeah, it was like a Thursday afternoon. I was just like, I'll come meet you guys for 4 hours.
Yeah, that was great. It was a good time. I'm actually going back to Chicago next month for a group practice event and
I
meeting
think we're
some
going to
people
see you.
there. Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, cool.
And it's the
And we're-
same one that we're going to at the very beginning of May.
It is. Yes.
I didn't know that. That's very exciting to hear that. Yeah. And I think some of my friends and I are going to go do the boat cruise again. So that'll be a good time.
I've done it, I think, at this point 3 or 4 times, and it's fun every time.
Yeah. Yeah. As
Yeah.
long as it's not so hot, because that day was so hot.
I can guarantee you that on May 2nd, we're not worried. We're more worried about it still being winter than it being too hot.
Good.
It snowed yesterday.
Good. So I have to
Yeah.
ask this follow-up question. So we've talked about the amazing benefits of community collaboration, accountability. So if someone is listening to this and maybe they just started their solo practice or they've been doing it for a while and they just feel kind of alone, like where do they start? Where do they look first? How can they go out there and find some community? And of course, I want to hear about what you provide along those lines as well.
I feel like Steph is probably the best person to learn from this because it's like her secret magic superpower, okay, is being able to bring people into community and then let people know how to find community. So I'm going to let her answer this one.
I just see so many people as a potential friend, maybe not a best friend or this like deeply intimate relationship, but therapists are generally curious about people. And so if you carry over that to still your entrepreneurial life, it's pretty likely you'll meet people that are cool and willing to engage and things like that. So if you are looking for community, what I would do is when you are in your webinars, whether they're clinical or business oriented, you start side chatting people, right? So after they make a comment, or so many people will say, let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. And you find somebody that lives in your favorite vacation spot. Or it doesn't have to be that you also live there or anything like that. Or there's breakout rooms to any of that. Follow up with people. Get their email, shoot them an email and see if they could have a virtual meeting. Put in there that it's only 30 minutes just in case it doesn't go well and you need an out. You don't want people to think it's a 45 or an hour long meeting and then you end it at 20 minutes. You'll meet some people that you don't hit it off with. But if you do it with enough people, that won't create social anxiety and you'll end up meeting cool people and they'll tell you about other cool people that they want you to network with. Oh, I know so-and-so that lives there, or oh, so-and-so is doing cool stuff in the same clinical realm as you. Can I put you on an email? So it just becomes this thing. People will invite you to be part of a mastermind group. They'll want you to come to this conference with them. So you do just kind of have to put yourself out there,
Right.
but it's not as hard as it seems if you're going into it prepared to make relationships with people from those opportunities.
Yeah, and I would also say if you're especially on that solo journey and you're maybe just starting out, I think this is where the value of trying to tap into that local community as well is not only great from like a marketing, know about what I'm doing and who I serve perspective, but is also for a consultation opportunity. So many times I've interacted with a lot of my solo therapist friends who actually live in the community that I live in. And, one of the things they always say is like, I would really love to have a consultation group. Whereas in a group practice, you might have that built in. But when you're soloing it, unless you have built community around you, you may really feel siloed in what you're doing. And so I remember one of the things that I did really early on too, and this may sound scary for some people, but I would encourage you to maybe try it, because there are people out there that are waiting for you to ask them to
Mhm.
be involved in this. And that is, if there's not a local counselor meetup or therapist meetup or whatever the case, then you could actually create that. And it could be as simple as, there's normally local therapist groups online, like in Facebooks, like for your area, and just be like, hey guys, I was thinking about doing kind of a consultation meetup, and I'd really like to invite other people. Would anybody be interested doing it on such and such date at such and such time? And just kind of wait, watch, and see what kind of response you get. Because I do think that building community piece for you is important, but sometimes people are just waiting for you to ask them to come along the journey.
That's so good. I love that both of your answers are so simple and almost obvious, but they work. Like when you just find mutual interest with people and you're kind of like social in whatever space you find yourself in, it just happens, right? And then it becomes natural to say, like, hey, do you want to go to coffee, or do you want to have a Zoom meeting or whatever that might be? And then if you are wanting community and collaboration, go out and ask for it. And I've noticed on, like you were saying, Christy, I've noticed on those posts, people are almost always excited to say, yeah, actually, yes, I want that.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's pretty cool.
I was just going to say, I think about me, like, and Steph, this is how me and Steph got to know each other. I'm not somebody that's always forward thinking about inviting others, right? But if somebody invites me to join a party as a 7 on the Enneagram, I feel like it's my obligation to go and show up. Okay. And so I know everybody's different personality types, right? But like, I don't always think about this, but every time I've been invited, for the most part, I'm willing to show up. And so I think other people are just waiting for that person to take the step to say, hey guys, I'd love to do this. And if for some reason you don't get a response, that's okay too. You've learned something in that process about maybe what people are looking for or not looking for, and they may just not be your people. So move on from that and then go ask somebody else. I think that's an important step to mention, because I think sometimes if we ask and then nobody responds, then we can be like, oh, should I do that again? But I just encourage you to put that out, because you will find people that will resonate with you and connect with you. And then that can be really big support for the journey, is what I call journey. Like you said, we can go farther together,
Definitely.
right? Hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that not all connections work out, not all groups work out. I've certainly been part of consultation groups and mastermind groups that kind of fizzled out and just went away, and it was kind of unfortunate and disappointing, but kept doing it and then found the ones that connected. And one of them is a group of group practice owners. There's that phrase again. And we've actually been meeting monthly for going on 5 years, actually.
Wow.
And we know each other so well
Mhm.
that we can just like click in once a
Mhm.
month. And it's like the best hour and a half, kind of conversation that I have every month. One of the best. So I think that's cool. Okay. So I have to ask you this. So the two of you have this business together, the Practice Collab, and you do some cool stuff. And I'm wondering if you can, share a couple wins or success stories, or just like highlights of things that people have benefited from your offerings.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's worth going back to what Christy said earlier about the one person who said, I can't believe I paid people to let me work for 2 hours every week. But here I am. And she has said, like, I will pay this however long you're doing it, because we all know how easy it is for the things to creep in and tear away our otherwise intended time for our tasks. And I think we can also talk about our last in-person weekend, our last collaboration weekend, where all it took was, I don't even know when our friend started getting her big idea
Her
vibration.
download is what I'm going to call it.
But I think it might have started Thursday night. She knew what she wanted to come in and brainstorm, but by Friday morning, she comes bounding down the steps of the Airbnb and she's like, I've got it. And I just need to process it with you guys. And she had because she had had the space away from her practice, away from the responsibilities of her family, there was enough time to decompress physically and mentally and allow the other creative thinking to come in. And so by Friday morning, what had otherwise been a good idea, but mostly fuzzy and unbirthed, was pretty birthed. And there were just a couple details to talk out about for example, some copy or really niching down and what do you price it and things like that. But then she sat down for the rest of the weekend that we were there and started working on all of the content for website and continuing to get clear about like what the actual service offering was, and was just vibrating on good mood, excitement about the idea, inspiration about how aligned she was feeling with this new project. And, you know, all, in quotes, all it took was getting away, but it takes getting away and being around those other people that know what you're aiming to do that weekend and are ready to jump in the boat with you to have those conversations, litmus test the idea, and things like that.
Wow, that's fun.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's like contagious too, right?
Yes, yes. And you then, yeah, absolutely. You start thinking about, oh, what else do I need to be brainstorming or allowing myself to think through, watching somebody be so inspired and excited about their next iteration of an idea.
Fun. I love that. So you, in your offerings, you have a combination of online meetings and collaboration as well as in person.
Yeah.
And I think that seems like what people need and want now more than before. Like just buying an online course doesn't really
Right.
move the needle or get you to your goal. It seems like a combination of information and collaboration is really what's needed to make the progress, right?
Yes, so true. I mean, I think we're all there. It's beautiful how much we can get online and do virtually, but there is, I think, a ceiling to it, or there's the temptation to watch the webinar later or look through the free download another time. And that another time becomes never. Because again, through no fault of your own, but just things keep coming in and becoming more urgent than those things. And so, yes, we do like to provide the in-person, and it feels good to physically be around people, share meals, you know, who's waking up first and drinking coffee. And it just allows for such deeper connection. And I think with deeper connection comes greater creativity, and then a lot of times better work, if we are just really going to call it like we see it. But that can't be done all the time. People have other responsibilities. So I do think we found a unique way to do both and to do it at a frequency that seems to work for people.
I have a left field question for you.
Yeah.
What is the coolest place that you've ever done a work retreat or one of these kind of collaboration events? What's the coolest place you've met up?
We've
my
really
gosh.
lucked out with our Airbnbs, except for one.
Oh yeah, except for that one. But that was even
Uh-huh.
interesting of itself because we had a really cool experience that we got to do while we were there. I think that sunset cruise
Yeah.
situation we did. Yeah.
So to go back to when Christy and I first met, she and I worked like maniacs that weekend. I'm saying 14 hours
It
on
was
Friday,
unhealthy, but we got a lot of
16
stuff
hours on
done.
Saturday, another 6 hours on Sunday before we had to be out of the Airbnb at like 1 p.m., you know? And we knew when we were moving to do this with other people, we would have to counterbalance that inclination. And so what we do in these weekends now is, of course, we work and we hold people accountable to those work sprints, but we also infuse it with relaxation or like a fun activity. So one time we hired a photographer to come and do a photo shoot. And then we did a sunset cruise in Florida. And then we did a like pedal bar
Pedal
in
pub.
Denver. Last time we did this cool mud lounge and in-home massages. So try to just also, group practice centers usually aren't creating the time to do that, at least on an ongoing basis. But I would say, Christy, either Dallas or Denver, don't you think?
Oh my gosh, that Dallas Airbnb was just like the most personality, I'd say.
It was built for Instagram, Uriah. So they had like
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe wallpaper and, you know, those neon signs throughout in these beautiful bedrooms and bathrooms and a back shed that was like a nail salon
Oh my
and a
gosh.
pool. So
It was so random.
it was a really pimped out
Yeah.
Airbnb that was fun to be in. But our Denver spot also was a beautiful Airbnb. And we curate what Airbnb with intention, right? So is there
Mhm.
good workspace? Is there good relaxing space? Can we sit outside? Do people have a bedroom that feels good enough? And so we do usually land on a spot that I think just helps us with the weekend in a fun way.
That's great. I love it. That's probably part of the fun of it, is finding the location, right? And
Yes.
imagining what you're going to do there and all of that. That's cool.
Yeah, and trying to find a place that's walkable for like a coffee shop and a dinner. And so it takes some research, but it usually works out.
Yeah. I just got back a couple of weeks ago from Ireland, and I was there with my wife for a vacation.
Fun.
And then at the end, we met up with a group of therapists in this tiny town called Ferns in Ireland. And we did like 4 days of a retreat. And it was really cool. It was maybe the second experience I've had like this, where it was like, work, listen to presentations one day, and then the next day you go out and you tour and you do fun things together, like experiences and activities, and then come back, and then kind of repeat that. And so, one day we were on the beach, drinking hot Irish whiskeys and listening to Irish bagpipes and going to the lighthouse
so
and going to the
cool.
pub, and then we're sort of getting inspired and working together and doing that kind of thing. I think that's pretty ideal. Kind of like you were saying there a minute ago.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, when
awesome.
you just create space for just experience and togetherness, and really that shared idea space where you're really trying to, support each other, it just, you create these relationships that really do go deeper faster, I think. And that's what's really cool, because then you've built a person that you can then add to your help. I'm picking up my phone right now for those of y'all who can't see. But you pick up your phone and you give them a call when you're in kind of a situation that they can understand. And it's something that's really, I know for me, has been one of the best gifts of this group practice journey. When I started out, I guess 5.5 years ago, I didn't anticipate, I had no clue what this whole experience was going to be like. But I will say one of the best unforeseen gifts about this experience of growing from solo into a group practice owner and is the incredible people that I've gotten to meet and the relationships that have supported me along my journey. And hopefully I've been able to support them along their journey as well.
It makes it fun too. Like
Yeah.
work is work, but we're trying to make a difference with the things that we create and the things that we do. And it's got to be enjoyable so you can do it for longer, I think, right?
That's
I
right.
agree.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up.
Dang it.
I know. But for the people who are listening and have gotten to the end of the episode, where can they go to learn more and kind of take advantage of some of the awesome things y'all have created?
Number one, thank you for still listening.
I know, right? You made it.
And number two, if you've listened this far and you want to just kind of find out a little bit more about who we are, who we serve, and why we're passionate about doing that, you can find us over at thepracticecollab.com. We're also over on the Facebook and the Instagram. And so you can find us over there. But really, our passion is supporting, honestly, more group practice owners. Although we love our people at any stage, we're more passionate about supporting those that have been in group practice a little while, maybe a year or 2 years, and they are just wanting support along the journey. And so if you want to kind of connect with us, we have some free resources over there. It also gives some updates on some upcoming events we have. And the one that we're really excited about is happening in September, where we are doing our second annual Collab Lab. And it's kind of what we've just talked about here. We have a space, but it's more of like a conference that's not a conference. That's like an event where you get together with people that are other group practice owners and you kind of get some information, but have time to work on it as well and also have a little fun. So if you are interested in that, you can also find out more information at thepracticecollab.com.
That's wonderful. Thank you both for what you're doing and for being such fun, awesome people and friends.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see you soon, Uriah.
I
It's
know
always
that's a very,
fun.
very pleasant surprise. I'm sure we'll get into some fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thanks for being on the podcast. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and hit the subscribe button to make sure you never miss an episode. If you're looking for more personalized help, you can reach us through productivetherapist.com. Thanks so much for listening. We are Productive Therapist, and this is the podcast that helps therapists get more done and have more fun.